Q&A time!
Yeah, I've been away from YouTube and Twitter and social media. I wish I could do fancy graphics, because I would, but I can't, so I won't. I've been away from all that for about 2 months, and I bet you're wondering why. Where have I been? Did you even notice I was gone? I got 2 or 3 new subscribers during that time, which was kind of about the same as I was getting when I was doing stuff. Welcome. You've got mail. No, this is what you signed up for. So let's get to the questions, figure out where I was for 2 months, and man, I wish I could say there was a book giveaway at the end of this video, but I haven't ordered any of my books yet, and there's not. I'm just a disappointment all around right now. Number 1. Man, this is weird without... We're gonna put this back up here. Hakaius asks, do you like your name? Would you throw it in the Atlantic Ocean? What's your favorite genre besides absurd humor? If you could change reality and make it so that you had written any book in existence instead of its current author, what book would you have written? None of that has to do with how long I was gone from YouTube or any... Okay, I'll answer. Do I like my name? Edward Van Winkle. Yes, but I have this real problem with the space in the middle of Van and Winkle, or Van and Winkle. Your directions are backwards for me. And sometimes some of my documents have a space, and sometimes they don't, and sometimes it's my fault, and sometimes it's somebody else's fault. And so nothing's consistent. And I'm in a constant struggle to make it work. Would you throw it in the Atlantic Ocean? Yes, if there was an ocean, I would throw it in. It would be the Atlantic, mostly because, if I remember my geography right, it's the closest one to me. What's your favorite genre besides absurd humor? My favorite genre besides absurd humor is, maybe like sci-fi, probably. I really like comedy, but sci-fi is alright. It's alright sometimes. Sometimes it's really bad, but sometimes it's alright. I really like YA stuff too, like YA mythology stuff, Rick Riordan, a lot of cool stuff, the heroes of Olympus, the Olympus people, the Greek and Greeky. I like greasy books. If you could change reality and make it so that you had written any book in existence instead of its current author, what book would you have written? The one that makes the most money. No, the one that makes the most change in the world. No, the one that's the funniest. No. No, I'll stick with the ones that I'm gonna write. I think they're the ones that I'm meant to write. That sounds weird. They're the ones I want to write. They're the ones that I want to have written. The ones that I will write are the ones that I want to have written. And anybody else's work is secondary in my priorities. Like, why would I have written somebody else's work? It doesn't feel right. They can write their own stuff. And they did. And that's not the point, obviously. The point is, like, if I could be the person who wrote it instead of that author, which book, and my own, I would supplant myself, be a substitute for myself, take over myself. I will topple my own empire. Number 2. A.M. Houncho asks, when did you first realize you wanted to beat me in a duel? I mean, realize you wanted to write book words. Well, A.M., I see you're back after this 2-month vacation hiatus thing. I first realized I wanted to beat you in a duel when we first had a duel, and ever since, and since the day I was born, and before that, I guess at the dawn of human civilization, probably all the way back to the Big Bang. When did I first realize I wanted to write book words? Well, I was working as an audiobook editor and read a whole bunch of bestsellers, and not every book that I read was a bestseller, but a whole lot of them were. And basically I was researching pronunciations and stuff for those books. Not narrating them myself, obviously, because look at the mistakes I just made. But what I realized was a lot of those bestsellers, man, I could do that or better. And what I also realized was there's a lot of variation in what people like. Different people like different things, and what I like is absurd comedy, and there's just this insane lack of that genre in writing, and comedy in general is really hard to find in novel form, or novella, or even short story. And so, compared to, romance and fantasy, sci-fi, all this other stuff. And so I decided to focus on that, and I decided I wanted to try to help fill that gap. I've got to say, none of these actually have anything to do with me being gone for 2 months yet. Number 3. Lauren Killdeer asks, were you kidnapped by the mafia? Are you a mafia leader now? Did you leave YouTube because the underworld pays better? Do you have tattoos now like the Yakuza? Is your gang called the Squirrel Guys? Should we fear you? Let me answer those one at a time. Was I kidnapped? No. By the mafia? No. Are you a mafia leader now? No. Did you leave YouTube because the underworld pays better? No. Do you have tattoos now like the Yakuza? What? Is your gang called the Squirrel Guys? Yes. And should we fear you? Yeah. Always. Number 4. It really is every time I get to 4. A.M. Houndshell asks, was it the Illuminati? I wasn't kidnapped. Like, serious. Number 5, because I'm just gonna say it's 5. I'm gonna hope it's right. Hakayas asks, I assume you were on a fabulous vacation. Did your airline lose your sense of humor? Did it lose your sense of adventure? Wait, how do I even know you're the real Edward Van Winkle? Where is he? Who are you and what have you done with my friend? I definitely clipped the mic on that. Okay, again, I'm going to answer these one at a time. I assume you were on a fabulous vacation. It was a vacation of sorts, but not fabulous. Did your airline lose your sense of humor? Like I could afford a plane trip, a plane ticket? It's been so long since I've been on a plane, I don't even know what to call it anymore. Did it lose your sense of adventure? If I'm on a plane and I'm going and then I lose my sense of adventure, would I ever get home? Wait, how do I even know you're the real Edward Van Winkle? You don't. Who are you and what have you done with my friend? I am Edward Van Winkle, with a space. The Edward Van Winkle you knew without a space has been replaced, and I am now the author of all his books. No, look, what really happened was, I had a minor thing removed from my arm. I had something that I called my writer's shrapnel. Basically, way back in high school, somebody accidentally stabbed me, in literature class. Stabbed me, I'm not making that up, stabbed me with a mechanical pencil, and got some graphite stuck in my arm. And this is the Band-Aid that I'm now wearing. But basically, a little circular bump formed around that hole, and there was graphite in it for like 10, 15 years, and eventually that graphite recently fell out, and I didn't know it. There was a hole, it got infected. I had the whole thing removed after people thought I had MRSA and I didn't, and people thought, oh, it's this and it wasn't, and they said, oh, we'll do this and it'll be fine, and it wasn't, and they said, oh, you have to have it removed by a surgeon, and I didn't. Finally, I got a primary care doctor, he took care of the whole thing, but it's been yucky and my own personal hell, because I don't like yucky medical stuff. It's also been difficult to write or edit because it's right here. And so that meant that typing was difficult, typing like this. And so I've just been gone for a while. Number 6. A.M. Houndshell asked, so is your arm replaced with robot parts yet? Robots don't have any creativity. Just saying. A.M., I know you want to take over the absurd comedy what would you call that? cartel? That's not right. But my arm, as you can still see, is clearly human, completely biological, and full of creativity. So you'll have to deal with me a while longer. By the way, when are we having our next duel? Number 7. And lastly, AM Houndchel again asked, who's your favorite Dragon Ball Z villain? You know, the weird thing about this is it's actually relevant to me being gone for 2 months, because during the last week or two of that 2 months, I binge watched the entirety of Dragon Ball Z. And, that might sound like a lot, but it is. So AM, you asked me a question in another Q&A, which was who is my favorite Dragon Ball character? And I didn't know, and I jokingly said Yajirobe, but I can now seriously tell you that it is either Yajirobe, Hercule, or I call him Little Debbie. I called him Little Debbie from the beginning because his name sounds like Deborah. But then he had a real change of heart at the end. He was a real evil guy, the king of evil or some crap like that, and had horns on his head, looked like the devil, completely red, spits on people, they turned to stone. And near the end, he, the guy who decides whether you go to heaven or hell when you die, sent him to heaven because he thought this guy would like hell too much. And this guy goes to heaven and has a complete change of heart. And he's like the most ridiculously sappy, like love-driven character, and it's just like weird and hilarious. And so I think Little Debbie is actually my favorite Dragon Ball Z villain. And that's it for the Q&A video today. Next week's Q&A video, let me come up with a topic real quick. I have no idea what I'm doing. Next week's Q&A video is going to be about how many words you should write per day, and the mathematics of like, if you write this much, how much will you have by a certain time, and all that complication. I know that you've gone through it, I've gone through it 1,000 times. There's no reason to go through it, all you need to do is just write, but we're going to have that Q&A, so ask me all your questions about like how many words per day should you write, and anything that has to do with the mathematics of getting a book written. Anyways, yeah, have a great week, and I will see you next Monday.